Okay, this is like the 16th section of this 5-minute procedure to change a flat on your bike tire. We're to the part now where we're gonna put a new tube in, but for a moment I'm gonna digress and let's talk about people. So one of the hardest things to deal with when you're out riding your bike and you have a flat or any type of mechanical problem is functioning in the group of people. So you're going to find all kinds of different folks. Some people are really pushy and insist that they're going to fix the problem for you, and that's very kind and sweet, but sometimes not needed. And then you've got people who really don't know what they're doing, but they think that you don't know what you're doing. Anyway, there's all kinds of things, and you can be with a small group or a pretty big group. First of all, even though I do know how to change my tire well, I don't always do it. If there is somebody really willing to do the tire change and take care of it and do a good job, well, gosh, it's a great opportunity for me to just rest and eat something and get ready for the next part of the ride. On the other hand, if it's someone who maybe doesn't know what they're doing, but they're just nice and they think they know what they're doing, then that's a little bit harder to deal with. And you may have to say that you appreciate them, but that you will take care of take care of this, and maybe give them a job like holding your bike. And then some of us get more anxious, and it's hard to concentrate on a task when you've got a bunch of people standing around talking or staring at you. So asking the group to move away, or telling the group to, maybe the whole group going up to a store and get drinks and snacks, and then you'll meet them at that store or another point on the ride, and just have 1 or 2 people stay back with you while you're doing the repair. So there's all kinds of options, but I think it's a good idea to address this. Anyway, just think about yourself and what you would need, and then go about your repair, or having someone else do it. But if you already have someone else do it, know how to do it yourself. That way you can make sure they do it right. Okay, so we're back on task now. So you have figured out where the hole was, where the injury to the tube was, and you're gonna put your new tube in. So first of all, I haven't taken the old one out all the way. Now, I am gonna not be totally real here, in that my spare tube is purposely a little bit small for this tire, but I carry a smaller tube as an emergency, just to not carry a big tube, because I know it'll work temporarily. So anyway, I'm going to pretend this is my brand new tube. So once again, I've inspected everything. I'm going to take my brand new tube, I'm going to put a little bit of air in it, just by mouth. And I'm going to lay it out. And once again, I've kept the tire one side within the rim and one side off the rim. So I'm laying it, and having that little bit of air gives it a little bit of form. I'm going to bend away the tire so I can stick. The first thing is stick the stem through the hole in the rim. So I put the stem through the hole in the rim, lay the tire around, and now I'm just going to, by hand, put the tube inside of the rim. And once again, if they have just a little bit of air in it, have some form, so you can do that more easily. All right, so the tube is inside. We've still got just one side of the tire not inside the rim. I'm gonna now start at the area where the stem is, and I am turning so you can see. I'm gonna push up on the tube so it comes up a little bit, and I'm gonna put the bead, that's this thick part, the toughest part of the tire, down in the rim, and I'm pushing up on the stem to make sure the tube is past the bead, because we don't want to pinch the tube between the bead and the rim. So as best as I can show you, so I'm putting the bead down, I've got the pressure on the stem, and the tube is high, and now I can let go of that. Now I'm just going to be with my hands, work my way around, and this is easy, this part, till we get to the hard part. It's easy till it's not. And I'm bringing the bead over the rim, and I'm working my way with my thumbs both directions. And then I'm just making sure that I'm not putting the tube between the rim. And this part's easy, it's really hard to do that. It helps also, once again, if that little bit of air is in your new tube. All right, and we're just snapping the bead into the rim, and now we've got about 12 inches of bead to still go inside the rim, and this is where it gets hard. Most recommendations are to not use tire irons for this, but generally speaking, many women don't have the hand strength to do this without using the tire iron. This is why I use this very thin tire iron, so that I can get over the rim and tuck the bead in using the leverage, and not pinch the tube between the rim and the bead, because that will cause an instant flat, and when you pump up your tire, it will just be flat. So my neighbor Steve Dixon showed me this trick many years ago, and it's awesome. So anyway, once again, in the dream world, I would only use my fingers, but that won't happen. Also, a new tire is much harder than an old tire, and then some rims are harder than other rims. So sometimes this is really hard, and sometimes this is really easy. Okay, higher pressure tires tend to be harder. So I'm going to use my fingers as long as I can. And then this is the part where cussing often occurs, and this is the part where they get hot and bothered. So this is why you don't want people irritating you. Now, right here, I'm taking my fingers and I'm feeling the tube, and I can tell the tube is at risk of being pinched. And I'm kind of working it back to the other side of the rim. And I'm going to bring the tire now, because pretty much I have to do anything to get this done. So I'm just going to go to the edge here, and I'm sliding the curved part of this little tire lever on the metal part of the rim, and as soon as I get to the edge, and I know there's no way that I've got the tube in there, I am going to use it to help me whip that bead in, just like that. Okay, and I'm going to set this down. I'm going to have to use as much strength as I've got and leverage from this tire iron, and then sometimes I take my other hand and put it on this side, the opposite where the bead is out of the rim, to kind of keep it from popping out, because one thing that often happens is as you're putting the bead in, it starts popping out on the other side, and this takes practice. So even though I do it pretty well, I still sometimes just have times where it's awful. So here we go. So once again, I'm sliding this plastic tire lever, and I'm getting just like an inch to a half inch of bead over at a time, and it's going to get harder and harder. I'm sliding it in, and then I'm pulling up once I can tell that I've got the curved part over the rim and I don't have any rubber in there. You talk amongst yourselves. Okay, so I'm down to like, I don't know, 8 inches of tire still not on the rim. So this is gonna get harder and harder, and then it's suddenly gonna all happen and life's gonna be good. Okay, and what happened there is though I got it in on this side, it started coming out over here. So I didn't have my hand in the right place to keep that from happening. I'm gonna keep going. Here we go. Now what can happen with these thinner tire irons, or what I found with any of them, once again I'm gonna check for that tube, make sure I'm not on it, is you can break them. So they are just plastic, and I don't find tougher metal ones do a better job. I've just bent them. So you gotta not put too much pressure on them. And once again, if I had extra strong hands, I could do this just with my fingers. God bless you if you did that. Okay, so I'm getting really close here. And in a way, it's just kind of stretching too. So if I were really strong, I could just push that bead on over. But I'm gonna use my tire iron. And it's even hard to get it now between the bead and the outside of the rim. So I picked a place right in between. I've got like 6 inches to go. I'm gonna slide it and feel, make sure it's all metal. I'm not feeling any rubber under it. You can catch the edge of the rim. And there we go. And that thing just went on. So the bead is now on the side that I've taken off, all within the rim. Okay, the next part of this is to make sure that you're not going to have a pinch flat. So this is just a routine process you go through, and do it every time to prevent problems. So first of all, go to your stem, and I do this standing up. I'm going to straddle over the tire. I'm going to do it on both sides. I'm going to move the tire over because it's not seated. Seated means attached on the bead. And I'm pulling it over, and I'm going to spin and inspect the entire tire, and I am looking for the tube because I should not see the tube. The tube should be all within the rubber tire itself. I shouldn't see it between the rim. I shouldn't see it at all. If I do see it, I'm going to, with my fingers and my little plastic tire iron, I'm going to move it away from the rim. Okay, one side checked. Rotate the tire. Always use your stem so you know you've done the whole thing. And I'm going around now, and I'm checking again on this other side and make sure none of the tube is underneath the bead of the tire. Make sure it's all hidden within the rubber part of the tire. Okay, I've inspected both sides, so we're ready now to put air in it. So one next trick is the little washer. Not all of these are also threaded. Some of them are just straight. I do like threaded ones because it's going to help hold that tube and keep it from diving down when you push on the stem. So I've just put the little, I'm going to call it a washer. You could call it a nut, I guess. I don't know what it is. Now I'm going to open up the Presta valve. Remember, I had it closed because I have a little teeny bit in the tube. Okay, this part always makes me nervous as can be. So read your instructions on your, what the heck are those called? This is the Microflate Nano. We called it Chuck. So you're gonna take your CO2 cartridge, and on this one, once again, you follow the instructions. I'm gonna screw it all the way in. I hope that's right. If it's not, okay. Now my memory is you screw it all the way in, and on this one and most of them, you then, as you unscrew then the canister, it lets the CO2 in. And we actually just want a little bit in now. So I've now put it, the proper end over the Presta valve stem. I'm pushing it down, and now I'm going to unscrew the CO2 canister. It's going to get cold, and it's kind of scary. Unscrew it just a little bit. And then I'm going to screw it back down, so I'm going counterclockwise now. and air's coming, CO2 is coming out. And if I want to stop the process, I do it clockwise. So sometimes if I had a hand pump, I would actually pump it up, let it back down, and I'd re-inspect and make sure that the tube was still not pinched. Since I'm using a CO2 canister, I'm just gonna kind of glance around, make sure everything looks good, and now we're ready to go. We just need to blast this and pump it up. So hesitation is what will defeat you. It's gonna get cold, and like I said, I don't like the sound of this, and I prefer a hand pump, but they are exhausting. So I'm pushing it down, I'm doing it counterclockwise, and because the bead has to seat, so it's gonna pop. And if you have a buddy, it's a nice thing for them to be feeling the tire. And it gets really cold and icy. Okay, I'm stopping it there. And I released it. I never actually heard the bead pop, but you know what? It looks good. I'm just inspecting it. You want to make sure the bead is not popped off the rim. And I don't have a pressure gauge in this setup, but it feels like I can totally ride that. So I'm going to close my valve. You can see that it's iced up. And that is it. There is a little bit of CO2 left in this that I could add later. When you're back home, you need to let it down and fill it with air. They say CO2 is not as good. So we're actually ready. So you put your stuff back together, and I'm gonna stop here and then start a new video for the 25th section of this about putting the rear wheel back on your bike. And then maybe we'll do a video where I do it all live in one motion. The whole tire change. Okay.